shadow, I saw the light. From a circle of sorrow, I reached for change. Then in a moment, I see other ways. Then in a moment, I remember how to pray. From my heart, I saw the love. From a circle of kindness, I reached for change. Then in a moment, I see this was the way. Then in a moment, I remember how to pray. So life for joy, so love rejoice. A soul knows the longing of long ago. I remember so tender where we rode. I remember so tender our heavenly home. From my heart, I saw the love. From a circle of kindness, I reached for change. Then in a moment, I see this was the way. Then in a moment, I remember how to pray. So lights of joy, so love rejoice. My soul knows the longing of long ago. I remember so tender where we rode. I remember so tender our heavenly home. Grace return, forgive, relearn. Sometimes from a bender we unwind. If that's a way to grow into grace, I see the return when I raise up my face. So light of joy, so love rejoice. A soul knows the longing of long ago. I remember so tender where we rode. I remember so tender our heavenly home. So light of joy, so love rejoice. So light of joy, so love rejoice. So light of joy, so love rejoice. So
Woo!
the choir, drums, band, Keith, Steve, and Mike is on the bass.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Ogun Holder, your senior minister. So glad to have the choir in full effect today. Y'all about to fall off the stage.
Nice going. As you're able, I'm going to invite you to stand, take the hand of the person next to you as we allow ourselves to fall into this present moment, grounding ourselves here in the now as we sing together, Surely the Presence.
Tiny power and God's grace.
let us pray, and surely the presence of God is here because you are here. You, the divine expression of the one power and the one presence we call God. Where you are, God is. Because you are God. You are God in the person of who you are. You are God in the love that unfolds from you. You are God in the compassion that you share with the people whose lives you touch. You are God in the energy and the thoughts and the consciousness you hold. And with great open heart, great gratitude, great joy, great celebration, I give thanks for your being here and welcome you to this time of celebration. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. You may be seated. Let's do some singing.
First, the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added. They say we need money and power. They say there's no God all around. Lord, they know God's Spirit within us. Nothing stronger than love. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added. They say we need money and power. They say there's no God all around. Don't we know God's Spirit within us? Nothing can be stronger than love. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added. First the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all shall be added.
Woo, good remembering on that one.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Carol Walrazak, interfaith minister and lead chaplain here at Unity on the River, and it's my pleasure to be facilitating the service for Reverend Ogun today. You know, while I'm up here, I thought I would comment on how blessed it is to be able to work at this center. I'm here part-time, and every day that I'm here, I come into the sanctuary, and I take a few minutes. And you know, the love that's here this morning is still in this center every time you step through the door. And I especially love being up on the platform, feeling that love from the choir and the band. But I also want to point out the altar and how beautiful it really is. This particular piece was brought to us by Denise Dennis, and she serves on the altar and flower team. It is a ministry here, and we so appreciate that ministry. Unity on the River is a center of celebration, inspiration, transformation, spirit-centeredness, oneness, and joy. Please hold those truths in your heart as we say together the mission and vision statement. The mission statement: we are a vibrant spiritual community that celebrates the presence in all and awakens humanity to its divinity. And the vision statement: centered in love, we joyously co-create a world of oneness, peace, and harmony. I'd also like to welcome all of our streamers today. If you could just give them a wave, and so they'll know they're also welcome at our service. Hi, streamers. And if anyone is here for the first time, could you please raise your hand? Oh, I see a new person here. Anybody else? What we're doing today is actually giving you a welcome packet. And after service, there is a welcome table outside the door in hospitality. So if you go there, there'll be a person to answer any of your questions. There should be a CD in there that tells you about unity. And we're just so blessed to have you. Just know that we believe in all paths to God. Today, there is a parents' lunch. It's not for the children, it's just for the parents of the children. So if you would meet with Christina Mariah, our Director of Youth and Family Ministry, right around 11:45, you'll be going to Sylvan Street Grill, right down the road, Route 110 in Salisbury, and there is child care for the children to stay here. You can pick them up after lunch. It's a great opportunity to get acquainted. And Easter baskets, those are going out today. Our Neighbor's Table is a local organization that feeds the homeless, and these particular baskets are for the children. And if you'd like to gift an item to that basket, it would be items like wrapped candy, hygiene products, art supplies, gift certificates for teenagers. Anything like that is helpful. Even little new or used stuffed animals would be appreciated. And I want you to look around today. Notice the carpet is much cleaner. Not only this carpet, but the bookstore, fellowship, minister's office, and that's all because of a congregant, Kathy Martin. She has a good friend who does industrial cleaning, and his name is Tony Travia. You can see him up there on the slide, and he came and did that for her and for us free of charge. And now my little side note, if you could please just bring water into the sanctuary, that would be appreciated. You know what the biggest stain was to remove? Coffee. Can you imagine that? So thank you for just bringing water into the sanctuary. It's now that time in the service where we greet each other in love. It's called Namaste. I behold the Christ in you. I see your magnificence. I see your beauty. If you would stand and greet each other in love. And of course, there's just one more thing I wanted to say before I sit down. Talking about thanking people for cleaning the rugs. I also wanted to thank Will Lojek, where is he? Right there, for coming in and clearing all the snow out of here. Thank you, Will. Very nice. With his bobcat. And also John Wernsdorfer, where are you? He is a handyman extraordinaire, and he is helping us just keep this building going.
Endless service from John.
And of course, Jim McQuaid, who I don't know what we'd do if we didn't have him here. Thanks, Jim.
What am I to do? What am I to feel? I am like a child. You are with me still. But what am I to do? What am I to feel? 'Cause I am like a child. Oh, but you are with me still. Listening in the silence, even in the sadness. It's everywhere you are. Oh, everywhere you are. Let my soul surrender. The greater I shall be. It's what I came to do. It's who I came to be. Let my soul surrender. Let my soul, let my soul, let my soul surrender for what I came to do. Oh, who did I come to be? to do. Oh, who did I come to be? To the heart of God.
Well, this is awkward. She just sang my whole sermon. So let's pass the baskets and go home. Nothing really left for me to say. No, thank you. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Let my soul surrender. You know, sometimes in this transformation process that we are on, surrender and transformation, it can be a lot of fun. It can look like a lot of fun. It can look like an enlivening, inspiring, exciting process. Like when you're about to go snow tubing down a really big
We didn't quite make it to the second one. Halfway there.
That was a group of us yesterday doing the. Remember, we have the Gala fundraiser, and one of the things was a snow tubing trip. I had a good time. I was shooting the video because you didn't need to see me screaming. That was a little embarrassing. But yes, sometimes it can look like that. It can be a lot of fun. Sometimes it can look like the Via Dolorosa. And those of you who come from the Catholic tradition know what that is. Via Dolorosa, the final journey that Jesus made as he carried his cross, the trial and carried his cross to Calvary. Sometimes it feels like that. Those of you who are from the Catholic tradition know about the Stations of the Cross. Oh yeah, she says. I don't know if that was a good oh yeah or a what, but oh yeah. We know about those. Sometimes surrender can feel like we're going through that process on the way to something horrendous, or at least it feels horrendous a little bit in the process. But I've been working with this book this week. It's called The Promise of Paradox. It's written by Parker Palmer. He's an author, a theologian, a social activist, becoming more and more familiar with his work. But as I was reading this book, and he talks about some stages that I realized were a great parallel to the surrendering process we go through. And it started with him saying this one statement. He wrote this. He says, "The heart of the human experience is neither consistency nor chaos, but contradiction." Say that again. The heart of the human experience is neither consistency nor chaos, but contradiction. What do we mean by contradiction? A lot of different things. Contradiction between, for example, maybe the life we want and the life we have. Maybe a contradiction between our convictions that we have and our ability to actually live them out. You know, ultimately I think it's all a contradiction, or the appearance of a contradiction between our human personality self and our true divine nature. Because sometimes it seems like they are in contradiction with each other. But I like to think of contradiction as basically different points on the same spectrum. I don't believe our humanity or divinity are such two separate things that they are opposite each other. No, I believe they're simply the same, different sides of the same coin, that they all just interact, blend in with can embrace each other. I believe if there's a goal we have in life, our process is to surrender that human, sometimes fear-based, ego-based part of us into our divine self. Not to lose it, not to give it up, but to surrender it into. Okay? And those are two different things. We don't want to get rid of who we are as the individual, as a personality. That's ultimately a good thing. I like the fact, I've said this before, I like the fact that, not everyone is me. The world would not survive but 2 days if everyone was me. But each of us bring a unique expression to this world because of who we are as people. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing. We also learn how to be in this world in different ways, and sometimes those ways are grounded in fear, sometimes they're grounded in lack and desperation, sometimes they're grounded in things that when we surrender them to our higher divine self, we go through a whole transformation, and we transform the world. But it's a process. The first step in that process, Palmer writes about, is called recognition. And we spoke a little bit about this last week. Last week we talked about Lent being an opportunity to come to terms with ourselves, to set the extra time aside, whether it's to sit in the silence, whether it's to go on a retreat, to deepen our spiritual practice more than we usually do, to stretch ourselves in that way, to give ourselves the extra opportunity to become aware of maybe the path that is ours to follow. I like to call it creating the conditions. We want to be transformed, but how much do we actually put into creating the conditions for the transformation? We think transformation is something we do. Transformation just happens. It happens, but we have to create the conditions for the transformation. It's like snow. There's got to be certain conditions in place in order for that water, otherwise it's rain or it's snow, but it's the same H2O up in the sky, right? Same H2O, depending on the conditions, is dependent on what we find happening, okay? And apparently this winter, the conditions for snow have just been optimum. But we're grateful. By the way, so if you are on the email list for us, the Conscious Connections, I did put out an invitation 2 weeks ago where I shared one thing of gratitude I could find for winter and invited you to share some of those things that you had with me, and some of you responded. You posted on Facebook, you responded in the email. I want to thank you for that. We're doing another week of that. I need another week of that because apparently the gratitude I had last week kind of wore off a little bit. So I was saying, it's time for some more. So share with me. Go to our Facebook page and share. Find just one piece of gratitude. I know you've got them all. That video that I showed, that'll be enough gratitude to last me a couple of days. I'll need some more past that. Not a big fan of the cold. So we create these conditions in order to recognize the path we are to walk on. The first step is recognition. Okay. Once we get recognition and we realize what's ours to do, what's our path to follow, what it is that we're being called to do, what often happens next is resistance. We resist it. We resist that inspiration. We resist that call. We resist whatever it is that we get inspired to do. And then we think to ourselves, well, we're not good true students if we're fighting this. You know what? That's not true. The resistance is an important step. Resistance is a recognition that we in our human self can't do whatever it is that we're called to do. Lent is that period of time where that's leading up to Easter. When you look at the Easter story, that Holy Week, we find Jesus and the disciples in the Garden of Gethsemane. At one point, they're all sleeping, and he's praying, and he says, "If it be thy will, to take this cup from me." He's having a real human moment of realizing where he's going, realizing where this path is taking him. And he's saying, can I opt out? If you let me? And that's okay. We look in the Old Testament, perhaps the quintessential story of running and resisting is the story of Jonah and the whale. You know, and in that story in brief, Jonah was supposed to go to a city and preach, and he said, not me, I'm checking out. And he tries to, escape, and he's on the ship, and there's a storm, and everybody's about to die, and he says, this is my fault, throw me over. If I was there at that moment, I'm pretty sure Jonah didn't really mean it. I think maybe he was just like, sometimes we all try to be like the martyr, but we don't really mean it, we're just saying it. I think Jonah was just saying it, hey, just toss me over. And I think he expected them to say, no, we can't do that. But they were like, okay, let's try that. There went Jonah. Be careful what you ask for. But there he went. And the story goes, the big fish swallows him. He's in there for 3 days. He gets spits out on the shore. He comes around, goes to the city and preach. And the interesting footnote, because we often stop the story there, but the interesting footnote was that when he preached at this city and he told them change their ways or God would destroy them, and then that didn't happen, he got all upset with God. Like, what? You put me through this and now you're not going to do the thing you say you're going to do? What's up with that? And sometimes we're like that. It's like, we resist and then we come around and we do the thing that we're being called to do, and it's just not easy and graceful. And we're like, what's up with that? Like, Footnote, manage your expectations. We'll talk more about that on another day. But resistance. I myself had a Jonah and a whale experience when I first got clear that this ministry path was mine. And I didn't resist it at first. I was cool with it. It was one of those instances where I didn't have like some blinding flash of light. I didn't hear the voice of God in my head, because if I heard voices in my head, I would probably go to psychiatrist. Voices in your head, not really a good thing. But I didn't have voices in my head. I just awoke one morning with a realization of knowing it. And it felt like I'd always known it. So my wife heard a similar call, and we pack up and we go to Unity Village, it's outside of Kansas City, where the Unity School is, and we're there. And she goes first, and she goes through the program. And when I see what the program is like and what she's going through, I said, No, that is not what I signed up for. I'm out of here. At the time, I was teaching music at a charter school in Kansas City. And great kids, love the kids, love doing that with them. The administration, let's just say they're still working their way up my forgiveness list. So it got to the point where I didn't want to do this job anymore. But I was also like, I don't want to go to ministerial school anymore. There was a lot of don't wants in my life at the time. One of the things I did as the music teacher in this school was that I was the sponsoring faculty person for a student group called NOLS. NOLS is the National Outdoor Leadership School. So this is an organization that takes kids, and they go on these wilderness trips, build up their self-esteem, teach them about themselves. And as a faculty sponsor for the group, I could go on a trip as well. Now you have to understand, my relationship with the outdoors is tenuous at best. My idea of roughing it is like going to Super 8 and the Wi-Fi is not working. That's it. I don't camp. I'll go on a day trip and come back home. I'm not a sleep in the outdoors kind of person. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just not who I am. But for some reason, I was so desperate to escape where I was. I was so desperate to run. I signed up for this trip to go on this hiking trip in Lander, Wyoming. Lander, Wyoming the town is 7,000 feet above sea level. Okay, and then the first day of the trip, we take a bus and drive another 2,000 feet up. And then that first day, we hiked another 2,000 feet up with a 40-pound backpack on. Yeah, I'm impressed too, right? So we do this, and the first day, it's cool. doing my thing, I'm all hiking, and I'm like, we got a line of people, I'm like second behind the person who's leading the group, and, I'm doing my thing. By day 2, I was like maybe the 5th person in this line of 7, still been doing my thing. I realized at the end of the second night that even though I'm going to sleep, my heart rate's not slowing down. By the beginning of the 3rd day, I'm not just at the back of the line's over there, and I'm dragging. So I'm realizing my pulse isn't slowing down, and I'm realizing that at some point I'm telling my feet to move faster, and they're not moving faster. And, there are no coincidences in life. One of the other people on the group was a nursing student. So she started taking my vitals and said, yeah, I don't think this is right. And by the 4th day, they realized that they needed to get me off this mountain. And I didn't believe them. I was fighting it. I was like, nah, just give me a day, I'll catch up. Like, what? Catch up? What am I going to do? But when I started to feel like the bubbles in my lungs as I was breathing, even then I knew, that's not supposed to happen. I'm not a fish. Why does it feel like I'm gurgling? So they got me off the mountain, and I was checked into the hospital and diagnosed with high-altitude pulmonary edema. Okay? Here's the thing about this, and you gotta love doctors, okay? So the doctor sits down by my bedside and said, so yeah, it looks like you've got all the symptoms of high-altitude pulmonary edema. HAPE is the acronym. And he says, but you know how the body responds to height is it differs, but this is stuff that usually people get when they're like climbing the Himalayas and stuff. He's like, have you ever been at this height before? I go, in an airplane, sure. And he's like, where are you from originally? Barbados. And where do you live? In Washington, D.C. Oh, so you're a sea level kind of guy. It's like, yes. He says, you don't need medication. You just need to get off this mountain. But the night before I was evacuated, I was such in a delirious state. That the details are a little hazy. But I remember coming to a realization that something needed to be different when I got home. Something needed to be different. I'll tell you another day about how poorly I handled it when I got home. That's part 2 of the story. No, I'm not telling you that. Got to give you something to come back for. But what that resistance did was get me to a place where basically I was just opened up wide. Like there was nothing left of me, the self of me. There was nothing left. That resistance got me to the place where I was so down, all I could do was look up and realize what was mine to do. So the resistance is a good thing. I want to put a little asterisk next to the word resistance and say it's optional, but it's not a necessary. After resistance comes acceptance. And acceptance is when we basically run out of the will to resist anymore. When we run out of the illusion that ultimately we are in control. We're not in control. Sure, we can make choices. Everything is always optional. We can always make the choices, but ultimately, there's a bigger force, a bigger presence of love that is in control, that stands under everything. It's not us. So when we can get to the place of accepting that, and then beginning our journey on our path, then we come to affirmation. And in Unity, we use affirmation. You may have learned affirmation in that sense of a reminder of an ultimate truth. And here, this is kind of it too as well. The reminder that even though this path may have been tough, that we just came through, a hellish experience in our suffering when we resisted, and even though it may look like we can't see where we are being led, even though we may be afraid of where we're being led to and taking on what's ours to do, we affirm that at the end of all of this comes joy, comes peace, comes serenity, comes the wholeness of who we are. It happens. Those same stories with Jesus in the garden, Jonah and the whale, me on the mountain, ended in peace, ended in joy, ended in me standing before you, living my bliss. I would have loved to have gotten here without having to have been diagnosed with hate on the mountain. But I would not have gotten here if I hadn't been diagnosed with hate on the mountain. Don't judge how you get to where you need to go. Accept it and affirm in the midst of it that you're going to come through it and not just survive, but thrive. And that's the next step, liberation. Liberation, the freedom not just from the journey, but the freedom that now you have stepped into a fuller, more authentic expression of who you are. There is nothing like living who you are. Sometimes we get caught up in living who we think we want to be, or even worse, who we think others want us to be. Liberation. Liberation is living the authentic you in private and in public. That way you don't have to keep up with who am I now today? Which group of people am I hanging out with? So who am I supposed to be? You don't have to keep up with that. You are just who you are. And when we live purely, fully from that place of the authentic who we are, doing authentically what is ours to do, because we are connected to each and every person, place, and thing in this universe, we will draw ourselves even more into the perfect conditions that support us in living the authentic who we are and who we are to be. If you don't believe that, here's another quick story. And this is a story which I've shared with some of you before here, and that was the story of me standing in front of you. And when this job position opened, saying, well, that's interesting, but nah. Because I thought of all the good reasons why it was a bad idea. And then folks, Jackie, who was a former board president, she goes, I've been thinking this would be a good job for you. I was like, on paper, sure, but nah. And here's why this is a bad idea, and he gave all the lists. And one of the reasons I said was like, Reverend Shipley, who founded this place, she was here for 20 years, and she's leaving, the only minister you've had. You guys need an interim minister. You need to do it the way it's supposed to be done. And I was like, and I'm not touching you with a 10-foot pole until that happens. Because what lunatic would follow in the steps of the 20-year minister? This lunatic. So then, when that temporary minister thing didn't work out, and I was invited to apply again, I said no. I said no so many times that the divine discontent would not leave me alone. The resistance. But in that time of that resistance that I gave myself, was the time it got me to the place of clarity, to the place of liberation, to the place of salvation. Salvation is one of these words that some of us who may come from other Christian traditions kind of have trouble with. But the word liberation has its root in salvation, and salvation has its root in the word that means wholeness. That's what salvation is, a return to wholeness. And many times we live a splintered, fractured life of contradiction. Wouldn't it feel better? Wholeness. When we surrender, we find ourselves fallen into what I like to call the wisdom of the heart. Because that heart, that symbolic center of who we are, the love, the divine love that we are, will always let us know when we're in the right place. I want to show you a clip of Parker Palmer, the author of the book I'm telling you about. And he was asked about how the heart
when people
fits
draw on the wisdom
to social justice. Okay? So he's speaking in the context of social justice and social activism. But if you listen to what he's saying, you'll realize that what he's saying applies to all of us in every situation. Let's play that.
Of the heart, which always tells us, you are worthy.
Can you stop it and start over? Because we got to hear
are-
those first few words. So I'll give you a second to pull that together. But it's important that we hear those first few words that he says. Okay.
When people draw on the wisdom of the heart, which always tells us, you are worthy, you are precious, you are of profound value as you stand, as a human being. And you take that vulnerability to the voice of power, which wants to hold you down, which wants to oppress you, which wants to manipulate you. Something happens that doesn't happen overnight. You need to keep working at it. You need to keep practicing that vulnerability. You need to keep invoking the powers of the heart. But I don't know of any significant social change that has not required and been animated by that kind of movement of the heart to both claim my own integrity and to witness to it in the face of power. It often means sacrifice, great sacrifice. People have lost their lives for doing this. But ultimately, the heart is the place in which we learn what's worth living for, and therefore what's worth dying for. And I don't mean to overly dramatize that. I'm not talking about everybody going to some kind of martyrdom. I'm simply talking about our capacity and growing our own capacity to express our deepest humanity in places where it would seem unwelcome, in places where the reception may be hostile, and to trust that in the end, what's going to count as we're taking our last breath is our own answer to the question, was I fully present in the world with my own truth, with my own identity and integrity, as much as humanly possible, as much as I was able, as much as I knew how? This is not about perfection. You know, a lot of us wrestle with parenting, and I heard the other day a wonderful phrase. There's the theory of the good enough parent. No, I wasn't a perfect parent, but I was a good enough parent. Well, that's the question. Was I good enough in terms of showing up with my whole self in those places which called for a witness to humanity? And in that process, which evoked from the other some kind of reminder, however dim, of their humanity too. This refusal to make the other into an enemy.
So this is my invitation to you this week. Ask yourself, are you living fully engaged, fully whole, fully present, not just with the world, but with yourself? And let this time of Lent really be that opportunity to go through those steps of surrendering, the recognition, the resistance, the acceptance, the affirmation, the liberation, to get to that place where you can be fully whole, where you can be the transformation that you want to see in the world. Let's take this into our meditation time.
In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. And I rest and trust. Breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment, there is peace. In
the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace, and a rest and trust and breathe and know. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace.
So let us settle into the stillness of this moment. Allowing both feet to rest on the floor and let yourself be supported fully by the chair. And breathe. Allowing your attention to fall on the breath. As we focus on our breathing, we allow the mind to focus on the now. Now moment, the only true moment that there is. Breathe. Imagine with each breath, the heart opens wider. We relax more. Breath, we go deeper. Breath, the heart opens wider. Farmer says, with our open hearts, there is the vulnerability. And that vulnerability is that willingness to step into, surrender to, a path that is uniquely ours. A path of living the fullness, the wholeness of who we are. The meaning of life. Live fully who we are. To live the wholeness of who we are. Breathe, we continue to sit in that knowing, that deep truth. Wherever that path may lead us, whatever is ours to do and to be, not alone. The power and presence of love, that is God, that is our true divine nature, always with us. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for love is with me. Love is with me. Love is me. Into this affirmation, I am love. Spend a few moments in the silence. truth, what we are called to be and who we are called to be. Bring the prayer box forward. We hold this affirmation and this truth for all the names and situations in here. We affirm that I am love presence, the presence of the divine, be made visible in the lives and situations of the names of everyone in this prayer box. Should there be anyone for whom you would like to hold that intention for as well, I invite you to gently say the names out loud right now. For all these, we hold the intention that the power and presence of God, the wholeness of love, the fullness, be a reality for them, now and always.
The stillness of this moment, there is love, there is love. In the stillness of this moment, there is love, there is love. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment, there is love. Keep love going. In the stillness of this moment, there is love, there is love. In the stillness of this moment, there is love, there is love. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment, there is love.
Let's sing in the stillness of this moment, I am love.
In the stillness of this moment,
I am love.
I am love, I am love. In the stillness of this moment, I am love, I am love. And I rest and trust and breathe and know in the stillness of this moment, I am love. I am love. I am love. I am
In the stillness of this moment, every moment, you are love. You are not just love, but you are loved as well. So in this moment, you have an opportunity to share of some of that love as we collect our love offering. As you prepare that, I want to invite the prayer chaplains to please stand. These individuals are here not just holding the consciousness of oneness and spirit during the service, but are available to pray with you after service as well. Again, not just prayers of concern, but prayers of celebration and joy. And we thank them for their service today. And I also want to invite those of you who are watching live stream, there's a donate button that you can help share the love to. And if you happen to be watching this on YouTube later, just head back to our homepage, unityontheriver.org, and share with us as well. Your generosity, this reflection of your abundance, is what helps create the conditions. In case you haven't figured out, that's my favorite phrase of all time. Create the conditions.
Yeah.
These gifts help create the conditions for this transformation. So we thank you in advance. What do you got for us today?
We have Keith Bickford. We're going to feature Keith on
All right.
I'm Grateful. Here we go.
Yes? Oh, yeah, we got to say that. Hello. Let's do that. Sorry. There's no time in God, so we can do it whenever we want to. Here we go. Together, divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
Well, don't you know that I'm grateful? I'm grateful. Well, don't you know that I'm grateful, Lord? Hey, I'm grateful. Well, don't you know that I'm grateful? I'm grateful, yeah. Well, don't you know that I'm grateful? I got a grateful feeling and a thankful Lord. I got a grateful feeling and a thankful Lord. I got a grateful feeling and a thankful Lord. I got a grateful feeling and a thankful Lord. Hopeful. Well, don't you know that I'm hopeful? I'm hopeful, yeah. Well, don't you know that I'm hopeful? Hopeful. Don't you know that I'm hopeful? I'm hopeful. Well, can't you see that I'm hopeful? I got a hopeful feeling and a thankful Lord. I got a hopeful feeling and a thankful Lord. I got a hopeful feeling and a thankful Lord. I got a hopeful feeling and a thankful Lord. Grateful, don't you know that I'm grateful? I'm grateful, well, don't you know that I'm grateful? Hey Lord, we're grateful, well, don't you know that we're grateful? Well, I'm so grateful, well, don't you know that I'm grateful? Feeling and a thankful Lord. I got a grateful feeling and a thankful Lord. I got a grateful feeling and a thankful Lord.
Keith Bickford, rocking it. Woo. We are so grateful for Keith and this whole prayer circle because Keith just got out of his bed of double pneumonia yesterday.
And being from the Caribbean, I doubly appreciate the reggae feel. Y'all do reggae any day. I'm good with that. Thank you. So, we give great thanks for these gifts that continue to help us create the conditions for celebration, for community, for doing the work that we are called to do. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. All right, Carol, I think you got some more stuff for us to know about.
More celebrations and invitations. We're going to start with the Wednesday night service. It's called Samadhi. This Wednesday night is our third Wednesday back here in the sanctuary. This is a service that's meditation, it's chanting and reflection, time for question and answers. And Meg Rain facilitates the music for that. And it's with Reverend Ogun. Also, next Sunday, Cindy Swall. Many of you know her, many of you don't. Cindy's worked with us for quite a few years. She went through the transformation experience with us. She's actually a transformation coach. And the name of her talk is Let It Go, Let It Go, Let It Go. Following Lent, letting go what doesn't serve us. And Reverend Ogun will be here as well. And this was postponed but rescheduled. Reverend Denise DeSimone, she will be with us Sunday, March 22nd. Love Loves to Love. And she also has a workshop. There is a sign up out on the bulletin board in hospitality and a flyer if you want to learn more about it. It's also in your packet. And she'll be working with fear and love. They can't coexist. And Reverend Ogun is also doing a book study. It's called The Untethered Soul, The Journey Beyond Yourself. It's one of his favorite books. And it is going to start Thursday evening, 7 o'clock, March 26th. It goes for 5 weeks. Just wanted you to know this is on a love offering basis. There's not really a charge for it. You can also do this on a drop-in basis. If you can't make 1 week, you can come the next week. And books are on sale in the bookstore. It does help if you sign up, though, because it will tell us how many more books we need to order. And I'm going to call up Amy Jocelyn. She is our Director of Education here at Unity, and she's going to talk to you about some courses coming up. Hi, Amy.
Good morning, everyone. I stand in the presence. Well, I am beyond excited because as Ogun was talking about, we're all about creating the conditions, right? And we're rising in spiritual excellence this year. Well, our education classes help us to do that. They help us to create the awareness within ourselves to rise in spiritual excellence. And we have some really great classes coming up. We have Bible interpretation of the Hebrew Scriptures. That's going to be held over 3 Saturdays, starting in March on the 14th and the 21st and the 28th. That'll be a meeting here in the sanctuary. We do have an early bird discount that is being offered up until the 7th. If you pay by the 7th, the class is $108. If you wait to the day of class, it'll be $120. And that class is available for SEE credit for those that are in the path, but you don't have to be on the path to take that class. Then we also have our next classes. We have Art and Practice, Living as If Nothing and No One is Against You. Can I just get a raise of hands of how many people have taken that class already? Is it not phenomenal or what? Right? It's such a life-changing class for so many people. Ann Breyer asked people to sign up ahead of time because she'd like to have an individual conversation with you about the class. But it's a really great class that allows you to look at what you're making that's outside of you against yourself, how we kind of self-condemn ourselves at times, and also it helps us to move into creating possibility. So that's a great class, and that's going to be held in April on Sundays. But again, we advise you to sign up ahead of time if you can. And then, if that's not enough, we have 2 great metaphysics classes coming up. We have Metaphysics 4 with Reverend Ogun Holder, and that's going to be on Saturdays, May 9th and May 16th. And we're introducing a new rate structure here. We're doing a super early bird, which is $95. And that pretty much, the dates are listed on here. It's pretty much going to be a month out. If you sign up a month out and you pay in advance, it's going to be $95. 2 weeks ahead of time, in this case, which will be April 25th, it'll be $120, and the day of it'll be $140. And I just ask, if you do sign up, really put all your information on the sign-up sheet. It just helps us to be in contact with you and to let you know if there's any more snowstorms, but we're not going to have any more snow this year. Yeah. And then we have Metaphysics 3, and that's going to be held in July. And again, we have an early bird discount of a month ahead if you pay that by June. The metaphysics classes are really the heart of Unity, because it's how we make meaning and how we rise in consciousness and our own spiritual awareness. And we have the books available in the bookstore. If you have any questions, please come see me. I'd love to talk about education with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy. I'd like to thank some people. First of all, starting with Maura Lynch, our Director of Music Ministry. Thank you, Maura. Yeah. And everybody in the band, but it's particularly Keith Bickford that he's back with us today. And this is the largest choir I've ever seen at Unity. Just amazing. Thank you. And note in the back, there are so many people who help with services. Frank, thank you, Sunday Service Coordinator. Mickey, PowerPoint. Mark is on streaming and has somebody helping today. Hello? What? Christine? And we also have another Mark who's doing sound, so thank you all. I'd like to thank the ushers, the greeters, people in hospitality. It takes a village to really have a service here. Any board members, would you please stand up? Thank you. Please see one of these people. If you have any questions about Unity, they'd be happy to spend some time with you. And now it's time for a big song, The Courage to Care.
I invite Paula Estey from Torchlight Productions. Come on up. This is Courage to Care. Deep into the shadow, it's so hard to see. Light in the corner is calling me.
Make unto me a new horizon line, that no one does not hold me long enough to change, and change is what I need. Change.
Lurk inside my memory and past days I've gone by.
Give unto me the formed idea of you, a medallion at my breast. Remembering enough, I could become brave. I know I am brave.
Deep into the shadow, it's so hard to see. Corner is calling me.
Make unto me a new horizon line. Give into me the formed idea of you.
Shadow walls that block us, find the courage to care.
Lean into my heart with yours, lean in.
Shadow walls that walk us, find the courage to care.
Catch me in your embrace.
Shadow walls that block us, find the courage to care.
horizon line.
Shadow walls that block us, find the courage to care.
I remember I am brave, yeah.
Paula, Estey. My choir. Keith, Steve, Mike, Chucky, and Mark on the sound.
Let us welcome in the children.
Hi! We had an awesome day in Youth Ed. So much fun. We talked about being strong, inner strength and outer strength, and just making new friends. We had a great day. And we want to send a special, awesome shout out to our wonderful friends, Hannah and Brian, who are doing Annie this weekend. Yay! We had a super cool day. Cool. We are cool.
Who's going to pray with Reverend Ogun? Do we have any volunteers? Okay.
All right, let's go do it. Let's all stand together, hold hands, and sing the peace song. Wait for me. The love
of God enfolds us.
The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well, and we are richly blessed.
Well, clearly not my best day.
That's great. What are you talking about?
It's just I laughed at myself, especially like during the piece on Earth. So